There was a lot of optimism around the Montreal Canadiens this year, but they're still just coming out of their rebuild. So Craig, the one big question for the Habs is, how should they measure success this season?
I think success can be measured in two ways. The first one is trying to get yourself higher up in the standings. You know, when you're in the bottom 8 of the league, it's not good enough. It's not getting you anywhere. And certainly by moving up in the standings, that is going to be a significant part of measuring their success this coming season. Do I think they can make the playoffs? No, I don't. But I think getting into that 20 range of teams in the NHL would be significant progress. They have to do that by improving their offensive and defensive metrics. They were in the bottom 25% last season, and in every single offensive and defensive metric with respect to goals against, goals for, penalty killing, power play. They have to move that forward. They made some additions that I think can help them there, but I look at them moving up out of that bottom 25%, the bottom 8 teams, and trying to get into that next group as a real significant step forward in the build.
Yeah, when it comes to the standings, I'm with you. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're very unlikely to make the playoffs, but playing closer to the bunch, staying with the pack, maybe getting meaningful games into the spring and into March, that would go a long way to the growth and development of this team. But more to me, Craig, this is the last year we're going to say this, but again, the individual talent development of certain players is going to be paramount to this group going forward. Now, they've had some good success. They've had Suzuki and Caulfield, Slavkovsky's great growth, Caden Gooley, even Montembeault and Net. They've had some pieces put in their core that they have signed long-term and trust that they will be with this group when they are ready to contend for a Stanley Cup. They need this year to add some more names to that bucket. And there's a couple forwards, certainly Kirby Dach, if healthy, can he play well enough to show that he's worthy of being included in that group? Patrick Laine is a real wild card. Could he be a long-term fit, offering something unique to Montreal? But more than the forwards, Craig, I look to the defensemen. And we like Gooley, we like Matheson for sure. Jack brings something interesting. But they have several young defensemen, and this is where development counts, that Hudson, Mailloux, Reinbacher. Will the Montreal Canadiens learn anything or enough about some of these guys that they can add 1 or 2 more names to that pile of players? Say, okay, now we have our 6, 7, 8 guys that we know we're going forward with. We'll work around the edges of those guys. That to me is maybe the singularly most important thing the Montreal Canadiens can do this year, is develop a couple of their defensemen to add to Gooley, to add to Matheson, say, we know these guys are with us going forward, and we're very comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think comfort is a real key word there, because as Marty St. Louis showed, patience with Cole Caulfield, patience with Juraj Slavkovsky, patience with Alex Newhook, who they signed to a long-term contract after acquiring him. And certainly Dach and Laine, if they can play to their skill level, will be really significant for the forward group. We saw them make a significant trade in acquiring Laine. Why did that come about? That came about, I think, because they saw Jaden Struble, who's a pretty good young player, really come in and take command. So Jordan Harris, who's capable, ends up becoming part of that trade with Laine. So now the 3 players you just mentioned, that trio of players, they're all different. They all add different elements. Hey, listen, in an ideal world, all 3 of them would show that they're going to be part of this. Do I think they can? Yeah, I do. What they need to show, to your point, is that they are now earning of that belief. And now that allows Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton to be able to go and look, okay, how are we going to add to this group so that when next season comes, that we're not talking about moving up the ladder in terms of standings, they're talking about the playoffs. And that will be really key with respect to how they move forward this year. And Marty St. Louis and the coaching staff have shown they'll be patient, but they're also going to ask the players to take those steps forward. We've seen it with previous players, as mentioned. That's what they need to see with that trio of defenders.
Patience only lasts so long, Craig. At some point, you need growth and improvement in the standings and growth and improvement individually. I expect the Montreal Canadiens to do both those things and be in a really good spot to start next season.